Welcome back to the channel. I hope you enjoy.
I found a video camera that sees invisible objects. Before I get too far into what this device does, let me tell you what happened leading up to this strange finding. For some background, I explore abandoned urban buildings in my free time. Typically, I look online for abandoned buildings on a fairly popular forum site. Some buildings would appear here and there, others remained unlisted. The locations left unlisted were the only places where the items there had yet to be taken, while the buildings listed have usually been long rated with its contents spread out on different auction sites. To find unlisted buildings, however, requires me to search for them on my own. I don't typically look for these buildings as I've not had luck in the past, keeping all of my exploring to found buildings. That changed abruptly while I was out driving out to see distant family. Not too far out from where I lived was a massive 3-story office building. The growing bushes covering the entrance to this monstrous structure looked like they hadn't been cared for in months. As soon as I got home that same day, I went searching online for this building. 2091 Seacrest Ave. I scoured the forum for any mention of that name, and nothing. Jackpot. I was ecstatic. This would be the first abandoned building I explored unlisted. I imagined all of the things I would find in there, all the stuff I could use. I knew I had to act quickly before anyone else found it. I took my amateur gear, a headlamp, a camera, and a backpack, and set off late that day to 2091 Seacrest Ave. The building was dark and hardly visible. Only the parking lot was illuminated. I crept inside, making sure not to trip any alarms, though I doubted the building itself had power. I made my way into the building. It was like something I'd never seen before. It was like time had stopped when the building was initially abandoned. At the entrance there was a front desk, still with a monitor, keyboard, chair, and files. A logo on the wall caught my eye. It read, Advancement Dynamics. A name I had never heard before. I took a moment to snap a photo of it with my camera before I continued. Behind the front desk was an elevator, though. I had to use the stairs due to the lack of power. The entrance to the second floor was marked Development Unit. I opened the door and walked into rows upon rows of cubicles. Almost the entire floor was just cubicles with a few rooms off to the side marked Testing Rooms. So I went, row to row, each cubicle I would snap a photo of. All of them had desktop computers, chairs, calendars, and trash bins. Some you could tell whom worked at. You could tell who specialized in what. Some had soldering stations, others, mini storage servers. Regardless, each and every cubicle was near identical to the other. The rooms on the sides of the walls were the most enticing, however. I moved over towards the first testing room to see what it contained. Luckily, the first room I checked was unlocked and I swung it open, anticipating the contents inside. What was inside was few and far between, unfortunately. The first testing room was a bust. Moving on to the second was where it got interesting. Not expecting to find anything, I opened the door to find a video camera sitting on a table with an empty pedestal a few feet away. The video camera was fairly large, maybe half the size of a movie camera, with a handle sticking out of the bottom. It was clearly meant to rest on your shoulder. Upon inspection, the video camera had fold-out goggles instead of a screen. This must be meant for full immersion, I thought as I placed the fairly heavy video camera on my right shoulder. I flipped the switch on the top, not expecting anything to happen, but to my surprise, it had power. The camera had different modes: infrared, night, and day. I flipped the night switch and decided to circle the table it was previously sitting on. I noticed a little yellow digital warning symbol resting at the top right of the screen. I didn't understand what it meant. It's probably on low battery, I figured. I turned off the camera and gently placed it back on the table where I saw some documents. It explained the video camera's purpose. I was perplexed. The video camera was created to see objects not visible to the human eye. Physical objects. The warning symbol was an indication that it detected something. Green means it is not moving. Yellow means the video camera doesn't know if the object is moving. And red means the object is mobile. I was pretty freaked out. Considering I was circling around the table, I figured that the video camera couldn't tell that the object wasn't moving. I put on the video camera once again. Further intrigued by its purpose, I panned the room slowly, eventually coming within sight of a highlighted box. The warning symbol turned green. Supposedly, the box didn't visibly exist outside of this video camera. I was confused out of my mind at that moment. I walked slowly to where the box stayed, motionless. I moved my left hand forward to grab the object. Somehow, I could feel a cold material touch against my fingers. I lifted the video camera off of my head with my right hand to reveal that I was touching seemingly nothing, yet I could feel it. I lifted it off of its pedestal, feeling the weight of the object. It was no heavier than the small trash bins located under each cubicle. As I moved out of the room with the video camera on my shoulders and the documentation for it in my backpack, I couldn't help but ponder why the video camera was designed with moving, invisible objects in mind. Maybe it was something related to the military, yet it was sitting in an abandoned building, untouched. Whenever I took off the video camera, I felt paranoid by the idea that there are things that I can't see, potentially watching me, following me. So I kept the video camera on night mode and continued searching with it on. My curiosity for this building outweighed my concern of being watched, and I continued up the flight of stairs to the 3rd floor. The 3rd floor was labeled Containment Unit. I questioned what containment had to do with an office building, but I continued regardless. I opened the door to the side of a long hallway. This hallway had rooms on either side. The wall separating the rooms from the hallway was made of bulletproof glass, with projectors aimed at the glass of each cell. I made my way forward. As I did, the video camera went off again. This time it was red. I looked around in each cell. I couldn't see anything inside of the cells. None of them had anything in them. My inner thoughts got the best of me. Maybe this is why the video camera was in a testing room. It might not completely work. I became concerned as the video camera started letting off an irritating, repetitive beep. I continued taking pictures of everything I saw. I continued, now pacing through the hall. I reached the end. There was a solid door with no windows showing in. Slowly, I opened the door. The video camera continued beeping. On the walls of the room were drawings done with the invisible material, not visible outside of the video camera. It was only a meeting room with one round table and 10 chairs. My focus was on an invisible human-shaped object sitting still in one of the meeting chairs, staring right at the video camera. Chills went down my spine. I backed away from the room, shutting and locking the door behind me, pretending I didn't see what I just saw. I walked backwards, away from the door. I could see the handle shake. The invisible creature was attempting to open the door. Eventually, it resorted to bashing it until the lock let loose. I turned around before the door flew open and I ran towards the stairs. After the creature got the door open, I could no longer hear it. Of course, I was already on the 1st floor, on my way out of the building by this point, and wouldn't be able to hear it on the 3rd floor. I ran out of the building. Reaching the parking lot, I took the video camera and turned around to look at the entrance, taking one last picture with my camera before I got in my car and left. The next morning, I checked through all of my photos of each of the cubicles, testing rooms, containment units. I couldn't help but stare at the last photo, a disturbing image of the Advancement Dynamics building, off-put by a blurry front door. The movement of the front door could only have been done by the invisible creature. I set down my camera, and in a concerned shock, I took the video camera from Advancement Dynamics and went outside. My eyes opened wide in the realization that I had not gotten away from this creature. I hurried outside and turned on the video camera. I stared in horror into the goggles as it highlighted a creature belonging to the one in the abandoned office building, clinging on to the underside of my car. I ran back inside of my house, locking all of the doors and windows. I could hear it knocking at my door, mimicking a salesman, thinking I would unlock the door. I dialed 911 as my last resort and tried to explain what was outside. The police showed up after a few minutes of listening to the knocking. The sirens must have scared away the creature, like it wasn't always invisible and thought it would be seen. I spent the next hour attempting to explain to the police of the invisible creature that was following me, but to no avail. As the police returned to their vehicles and drove off and I closed my door once again, I saw the documentation of the video camera laying on my table. I went over to it to read it. It went into more detail on the purpose of the creation of the video camera. It was apparently over some mishap experiment conducted by the same company. Thousands of invisible creatures were released into the country on accident. Looking online, the lawsuits resulting from this incident drove the company to bankruptcy, and eventually all encounters were dealt with by the government. Whenever I hear stories of ghosts and hauntings, I have to wonder, are these ghosts or the invisible creatures accidentally released by Advancement Dynamics?
Thanks for taking the time to listen to one of my videos. I'll catch you in the next one. Ciao.